Hey everyone, we are the Gratitude Girls.
The Gratitude Girls are in the house. Hi, Laurie.
Hi Kathryn.
How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm good. I apparently did not get the pink memo. I love you in colors. Okay, I love you, and then I love the way you look in colors. It's amazing. I am going to do that. I'm going to put in the summer, I wear colors, and I guess it's not summer anymore. So I went to my 50 Shades of Gray. Ha, no pun intended, and black. But anyway, I see that you have some beautiful decorations in your house. My goodness.
We do. I decorated for fall, so I put most of my turquoise away. I still have some turquoise out, but mostly I have fall stuff. And I got a new thing on my wall since the
I
last show.
see. I see that. I see that. You're really, I have new sticky notes. Whoops, I have to just make you laugh. My decorations are more like I have more work notes on my wall, and we took our garden out, but it's just you guys are like decorating, and we are just so not doing what you're doing. You have it all together. We're just pulling out our plants and harvesting. We still have carrots in the ground. Like we're the manana gardeners, where they're like, yeah, we plant late, we harvest late. We're like, you want some carrots? We'll wait a little bit. But you guys are on top of it. You have it all together. I'm really excited for you. You're my idol.
Oh, I'm still working on my office. That's why I'm not filming in my office at the moment.
Well, that was the first room that I, had set up so that I could be in my what I call the bridge room. And this way, whatever happens around me, I'm in my safe place. But let's talk a little bit about speaking of safe place. I love that we can be anywhere in the world. I'm in Niagara on the lake, Ontario, Canada, and I'm so happy we're here. 6 shows ago we were somewhere else, and that was great. We loved it, but I'm just so happy to be here. And where are you talking to us from tonight?
Oh, I don't think I ever told you. So I'm in Williamsport, but I'm actually right off Williamsport Lake. So I'm right by a lake.
Oh, cool.
So
We never.
somebody told me that the other day, and I was like, I should say that.
That's right. And
But
where that's wonderful. That's good to know. Well, you have a beautiful property. And I love that we can get together. I know our goal is to be traveling all over the world, and there's a little glitch in the travel plans right now for the whole world, but we'll resume and pick up wherever and whenever that becomes the time for us to do that. Wonder where we'll be next. But for right now, for this moment, for our new guests and our amazing guest and our new audience is what I meant to say. I'm really excited because there are so many things that I can't wait to hear about in day to day life. Our day to day lives are all so different. And when we get to meet other men and women and other people who have a life that is just so different, I get to live vicariously through all of our guests. And I can't wait to hear what is going on with Wendy tonight. But beforehand, could we talk a little bit about, how did we get here? We're here. We talk about it like it's just nothing. It's us. It's Gratitude Girls Day. It's Gratitude Girls Night. We talk about it like it's nothing. It rolls like we're level 4, right? Like it just rolls off our tongues and we are exactly where we want to be. But some people look at us and still do not know, like, why are we talking about gratitude? Why are we hosting a show? And what gives us the platform to go and do that? Like, did somebody sprinkle gratitude dust on us? So could you share a little bit about how did we get here?
yes, so Catherine and I are both in a direct sales company called Send Out Cards. And we are actually cross-lined to each other in that company, means we're on separate teams. But so in that company at our international convention, they have a theme for each year. And so back in 2013, the theme for that year was gratitude. And so at the convention, there's always a winner that is announced by their peers. So, like all the distributors and customers, so there's hundreds of thousands of distributors and customers all throughout the world, and they put in their nominations of who they think should have the winner of whatever that theme is for that year. And so our CEO is up on stage and he's giving all the accolades and attributes of the person that's going to win, and kind of hides of who it is and just tells all about them and draws it out, like a good drama type person, just like on the TV shows or whatever. And so I'm in the back, I'm a technology queen, so I'm like ready with my camera and my video, and he announces Kathryn. And so Kathryn goes up onto the stage and she gets her award and she says a little speech. And then Cody says, for the very first time ever in the company, and I'm pretty sure it's the only time that ever happened since then, also, he said, this year there's a tie. And so he starts giving all the accolades of the next person. And I kept thinking, who is it? Who is it? And he kept saying more and more. And so I kept thinking, okay, it's somebody that's been in the company a long time. And I'm like, so I'm thinking of who it is because I've been there a long time, but I'm just thinking, okay, maybe it's this person, maybe it's this person, maybe it's this person. And then all of a sudden he says my name. So go up on stage. So Kathryn and I actually met on stage in front of thousands of people. We didn't know each other. But it was kind of like one of those things that, like they say, love at first sight or whatever. So it's kind of like love at first sight for best friends, for business partners, for we didn't know what it was, but we knew that life doesn't have any coincidences, that there's a reason for everything. And literally within like 2 minutes, we decided Gratitude Girls is born. We weren't sure at the time what we were going to do with it, but we knew we were going to do something big. And very shortly after, we started these shows. And so we've done them once a month, the fourth Tuesday night of every single month for the last almost 8 years now.
Laurie, I love that. It's amazing. 8 years, like there it went. I remember being in the audience, and I remember I had at my team members and really good friends with me in the audience, and we were all sitting in different spots, and I had wanted Dr. Joe to sit in the front so he could watch what was going on. And I made sure he sat in the front and I sat back, and then Dr. Val sat like she was coming in later. And when Cody called my name, I remember thinking, I don't know if I could stand up. My knees were shaking. I didn't know if I could walk up to the stage. It was what I had written in my I am statements. And then when I heard your name, I remember saying to myself before even that, I wanted to meet you because you had get received and given so many gifts to people. You were recognized in our company for giving the most gifts. And I wondered, what would it be like to receive a gift from you, from someone who is such a giver? And to our audience tonight, of course, after I meet Laurie, what do you think she does? She gives me a gift. So when I met Laurie on stage, when we met, there was a definite connection, like it was something we felt. When we walked down the stage, and as soon as we got to the bottom, I remember I get a little choked up too. I remember that we held hands and we knew that something was going to happen together. Like we said it and we knew it would happen. And from that moment on, we spent the rest of the trip together, and we were creating and doing, like we weren't just talking, we were doing it. And we very quickly put a show together. And Laurie is an amazing woman. She'll be very humble and won't tell you like what she does in the background and how quickly she does it. And Laurie does things without saying too much. Like she just gets it done. We talk about it, it's done. And 8 years, everything we talk about, Laurie gets it done without even having a complication. So that makes it a very easy partnership for me. I could do this for 80 years, and we could talk about gratitude and bring on all kinds of people and all kinds of guests. And tonight we do have another first. And from what Laurie and I have done together, we experience a lot of firsts, obviously, because it's what we attract, I guess. It's who we attract. And I know Laurie's going to introduce our guest. And I want to let the people that are watching tonight for the first time, this feels like the first show for us. Being with Laurie and having this platform, the only difference is that I know now what to expect. But the very first show, we didn't know what to expect, but we knew that it was meant to be. And tonight we know that it's meant to be. So I know what to expect technology-wise, and I know what to expect in my heart, and how we pour ourselves into this show and into what revolves around it. And we hope that you have a really good time with what you're going to see and the people that you're going to meet. So Laurie, I'm really looking forward to hearing about like this superwoman that we have tonight because she's just amazing. Would you be kind enough to introduce her to all of us?
Yes, absolutely. So Miss Wendy is becoming a fast, great friend of mine. So I met her last year at an event that we were both at, and in Florida, and she's right in my backyard. She's like 15 minutes from my old house and about 40 minutes from my new house. And so, but I actually ran into her on Instagram. I was searching for something else. I found her and sent her a message and looked at her profile. I thought she's at the top of her game in her direct sales company, and she's also a coach and trainer. And I just thought I was attracted to her profile, right? And so I thought, I want this lady to speak for me. She's close to me. So I asked her to speak at some of my luncheons. And then, of course, I invited her on our show. Once I heard even a little bit more about her story, I thought she's got to be one of our guests. So she's got an amazing background. I am so excited to introduce Miss Wendy Lee Stephenson.
Well,
Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for having me, Laurie. And it's so funny because we met a year ago, but when I met you, 2 weeks ago, I saw you in person. I'm like, I didn't make the connection. Neither of us did. And I looked at you, I'm like, you look so familiar to me. And we start texting through the night. And then I'm like, wait a minute. You were at Rank Makers. My friend Emily introduced me to you. And I was interested in your business as a customer back then, a year ago. It never moved forward with it. And then we reconnected in person. It's just, I don't know. It's so crazy, right? Like when you're supposed to meet somebody, it just works out, even if you don't follow through.
thank you for joining us, Wendy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love women that are just like, go for it, and from what I can tell with Laurie, it's like she comes up with an idea and she's like, let's make it happen. Let's go for it. Right. So I just love that.
You're so right. You're so right. And whether you know her 1 minute, 1 year, or 10 years, you know that about Laurie right from the get-go. And Wendy, our guests and our audience tonight might wonder, where are you at? So tell us a little bit about your day today. Let's fill us in, give us this on what's happening.
Yeah. So I don't get out much. All right. I'm a mom of 7 kids. I don't get out much. And last week I was actually in line for this women's networking event. There were 64 spots and I was on the wait list. And so Laurie asked me to speak tonight. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll totally do it because I'm always home. And then last minute I got entered, like somebody bailed and I got in on the wait list in this event tonight. So I'm like, oh, I'll finish up early. But then you know what happens when women get together and you find like-minded women, you can't stop talking. So I just found this group of women that, it's like, by the time we were done talking, I'm like, the Lord, like, just totally planned for me to sit here. And we had incredible conversation tonight and just uplifting and just, it's a hard time in our country right now. And a lot of people are going through some really hard things. And I've experienced more tragedy in my life in the last 18 months than I've ever experienced in my life. And it was so cool just to sit down with women that have actually gone through the same things I have this year and to connect with them. And anyway, but then I'm like getting on here. I'm like, oh my gosh, my ring light died. And anyway, so I'm coming to you from my car.
And Wendy, you're a trooper, right? You made sure that you would have done this no matter where you were. And that's fantastic. Absolutely. And we initially started to call our show the Hangout, meaning like we just hang out together, which is what we're doing right now. Animals are welcome. Children are welcome. If all your children were walking around you right now, that would be fantastic. That's what kind of show it is. It's about life. So maybe you have a little bit more quiet right now where you are, but tell us a little bit about a day in the life of a mom with 7 children. Like maybe someone in our audience is going to relate and maybe someone will say, Superwoman right from the start. How do you do it? But can you share a little bit about that with us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I only had 7 kids all in the house at once for a year and a half. So we had 3 of our own kids. We started the adoption process for one child, found out he had a brother. So it turned into 2 children, went to visit them at the orphanage where they lived. And my husband, he's the director of Special Olympics for the county we live in, has a huge heart for special needs, adults, kids, whatever. And so we went to this orphanage, met our boys, and the same day, I actually have a picture of him bending down in front of this sweet little girl named Esther. And the moment he met her, he looked back at me and I was like, oh gosh, he's going to want to adopt this little girl. And that's exactly what happened. So he fell in love with this little girl, Esther, and she has cerebral palsy and nonverbal, non-mobile. This same week we're in Africa. Okay, we're in West Africa. And my husband's like, I want to adopt this little girl. And I'm like, babe, we came here for 1 kid. And now we're talking about 3. And P.S., I think I'm pregnant. So we literally life shifting week, right? So we come home. There's no pregnancy tests that we can find in Africa. But we went to this war widows, it was called a war widows refugee camp. So in Sierra Leone back in the 90s, if you ever watched the movie Blood Diamonds, so diamonds were found in West Africa, and there was a civil war that broke out in the country. And there were a lot of women that wound up becoming widowed because their husbands were killed in the search for diamonds. And so in the Civil War, and they came together, these women in this community came together to raise their kids together because all of them lost their husbands, and now they're raising grandkids together. And I go to this camp, and we're talking to those women and ministering to them and bringing them rice and food. And I'm like, mind you, I'm at this time, I think maybe 5 weeks pregnant, right? And all of them say, you having a baby. They're all looking at me saying, you're having a baby. You with child. And I'm like, no, I'm not. You're with child. All of them said it. My husband's looking at me like, we don't need a pregnancy test. They just told you you're pregnant. And so anyway, long story short, come home, find out we're pregnant. So I guess you don't need pregnancy tests there because they just know by looking at you. So, so we went from a family of 3 kids to 7 kids in 16 months. Crazy time. But my oldest that we adopted, when we brought him home, it was a month before his 17th birthday. So he left and he's living in Kentucky right now. And then our oldest biological son went to college. So we have 2 out of the house as of August. And we have 5 still at home. But it's crazy town all the time. So this is like the most quiet I will ever have. Just sitting in the car. In fact, I go to my car to work sometimes because it's the quietest place around.
You must have an amazing ability to give, to have all these children. These children are so lucky, as you are, to have chosen one another, to be able to give your time and your love and your energy to them, because the needs of children are endless, right? Not to mention that you have a husband and a marriage that you're working on. So do you work? And I know the answer, but I wanted to know if you could answer this for our guests. So do you work, and how do you do that?
Yeah. So I do. I actually run 2 businesses, and I do it all online. And thankfully, I started in, actually today is my 7-year anniversary as a network marketer. So I worked 14 and a half years in the corporate world. I loved being a mom, but I needed something for me. I loved my career. I loved feeling accomplished. And, but as time went on, I found like this struggle. It was like I couldn't have the best of both worlds. I don't know if you guys have ever felt that way. And so I came across network marketing, did not think that would be for me, and learned about residual income and thought, if I want to build wealth and legacy wealth for my family, then I have to do something. And so I started with network marketing. And a couple months into my network marketing career, I lost my job due to a layoff, a buyout of our company, a layoff of my division. And I never went back. And it absolutely changed my life. And, you know, with being an online entrepreneur, I get to experience the best of being present for my family, yet still have something that I can call mine and feel accomplished and successful, you know? And so now my passion, what I live for outside of my family, is pouring into other women and helping them build a full-time income from home so they can be present for their family as well.
That's awesome. That's really fantastic. I don't know if you, Laurie, you have a question. I have so many for Wendy, but I don't know if you wanted to ask one now.
Yes. So I do have a question. Well, so question and comment. So I worked online, same thing. I was an accountant for Home Depot for 9.5 years, and I became, quote, retired in 1993. I was pregnant with my second one and decided to work from home and make it work. So I've worked literally online since 1993. And of course, that was way before social media and everything. But so I thought I was pretty good on social media, and Wendy gives these amazing tips for social media. She builds everything online with social media too, but she in our training earlier that for my luncheon, she gave lots of amazing tips for that. And so I want to ask just so one thing, Wendy, tell us two things. One thing that you're thankful and grateful for, that being able to be this amazing mom of 7 kids and being able to work, you know, that's being grateful right there anyway. But just pick one story, like one thing that you're grateful for. And then also tell us one tip, like that any woman that's watching right now, one big takeaway that they could take of how they're going to, you know, work to get to that next level of what they're trying to achieve for.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that you guys are the gratitude girls. So starting in January of this year, I got a gratitude journal and I started writing 10 gratitudes every day. And in August, I went to a retreat with my coach who preaches gratitude. And she's actually the author of the gratitude journal that I write in. And I was struggling with something, and I'm going to get really vulnerable with you guys real quick. I had a crisis pregnancy, and I had a child that I got pregnant outside of a marriage. And it was a really hard time in my life because I am such a woman of faith. I felt like it was so against the character that I put out there in front of people that I had. And so I had this crisis pregnancy, and the father asked me to terminate the pregnancy, and I didn't do it. And now that child is a 17-year-old amazing human that I know is going to make a huge impact on the world. And yet I carried shame with me. And I'm telling this story because I want you guys listening to know the power of gratitude. My coach realized in August at a retreat that I was still carrying that shame 17 years later. And she said, Wendy, I want you to go back to your hotel room tonight, and I want you to write out all the amazing things that have come from your mistake. And I did. And so much more good has come than anything negative. And so I tell you guys that tonight because as the gratitude girls, right? Like anything in your life that's hard that you go through, even if, like the word of God tells me that in James, it says, though I may go through trials of many kinds, right? They all develop character. And when it says trials of many kinds, even the kind I bring on myself. through my own humanity and my own trials, right? So the trials I go through, if we can turn our minds towards gratitude and looking at the good that comes from every situation, it can change our lives. So I just wanted to put that out there. I just felt like maybe somebody needs to hear that tonight. So I carried shame with me and feelings of unworthiness, and taking the perspective of what am I grateful for despite my wrong choices changed everything for me. So also, as far as a tip, a key takeaway for anybody building a business, I think the biggest, most impactful thing that you can do for your business is show up in live video or video in general. So what you guys are doing here, right? Letting people come in and see your personality and hear your voice. There's a connection that happens when people can see your body language, can hear your tone of voice, can, feel your emotion, hear your words. That's so much more powerful than just a written word. And every single person that pays me money, I say, how did you get to know me? And every single one of them through your videos. Every single one, it's through video. The power of video. Even like, especially in today's day and time when, 2020, when we don't, there's some parts of the country that are literally on lockdown and they can't get out and see even their family. Right. The power of live video is huge. And when you can come across in live video as your vulnerable and authentic self and create connection with people, that's the most powerful thing you can do for your business and for your life, in my opinion.
Wendy, thank you for sharing that. I have a question for you, and then I'm actually going to hand you the show. We're going to hand you the show. And I know you talked about some very deep and very meaningful events in your life and how you feel. But is there someone that you would like to share your gratitude to that you haven't, or tell us a little bit more and direct it to someone, some of the gratitude that you have?
So, it sounds crazy, but like, there are people in my life, and maybe you guys have come across this, where somebody that challenges you and you almost think are toxic in your life. Have you ever felt that? I've in recent years dealt with people that were very judgmental and very toxic in my life, and I struggled with forgiveness. And I, again, practicing the art of gratitude, I started to write gratitudes around that relationship that I felt was toxic. And I couldn't get out of my head, like, this is a bad relationship. Like, I should have never met this person, like they've brought nothing but drama to my life or whatever. And I started writing gratitudes about that person. And I think, I'm trying to think of how to say this, but understanding that we're all human and having grace and love with boundaries is important, right? It doesn't mean let people walk all over you, but understand that in every relationship, in every journey, we can learn a lesson and we can grow as humans, And I have a dear friend. If you guys have never heard of Dean Eric Smith, I encourage you to look him up. Dean Smith taught me the power of forgiveness. He will tell you that his story is that he forgave the man who murdered his mother. And he walks in pure love for the man that took the life of his mother. It took a long time for him to get there. The journey to get there was not easy, but it's powerful. And surrounding myself with people that have gratitude, that have forgiveness, yet still boundaries, right? Have taught me so much. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but
It's about what you feel. So
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
But yeah, writing gratitudes around like hard situations and understanding that there's good that comes from everything, even the trials, right? And success. You think about like people talk about failure and success, right? Without failure, we can't get to a success because it takes the failures to get there. It takes the failures to learn the lesson. And it takes trials and struggle to form us. Do you guys realize like we don't really grow in easy times? Right? Like in easy times, like we just continue on as we are. It's in the trials, in the struggle that we're refined. It's in the struggle that our character is built. And having the right perspective, which I think is exactly what you guys talk about, gratitude can make all the difference.
Thank you. That's very wonderful advice. And it's going to change a lot of people's lives. I'm sure they're going to look up Dean Eric Smith as well, and we'll be quoting you. So Wendy, we'd like to hand the show over to you for a little bit. Ta-da. And if you have any questions that you would like to ask Laurie or I, please direct them to us or each of us a question, and we would be happy to answer. Just let us know who you want to go first and what the question is.
Awesome. I would love, so hearing your story, and Kathryn, the fact that you were called up on stage and, you know, brought in to be recognized as someone with gratitude. How did that come into your life? Was that like something you were taught, or is that something like you went through that gratitude was the answer? I'm just curious, like how you got to that point that became evident in your life as something, a quality that you had.
Would you like Laurie or I to go first?
Kathryn. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So there's a story behind that. I'll answer that with the story. So gratitude, I believe it's something that I felt as a very young child. I remember being young in my crib, and I remember being and feeling grateful to having my older family around me, because there are 11 and 12 years difference between my brother and my sister and myself. And my mother was 36 when she gave birth to me. And I remember things in my life and events in my life. And I remember feeling so grateful and so safe and so secure. And what happened for this award that we won, I wanted to honor my parents who I lost over 20 years ago. And now it's over 20 years. So on May 22nd, 2013, I decided that I would send a card with an honor, a feeling of intention of honoring my parents. I didn't want to celebrate their birthdays. I didn't want to celebrate their death. I wanted to celebrate them and what they did for me and the impact that they really made on my entire life. So I sat down in front of my Send Out Cards account and I said, I'm going to send a card with the intention of sending them gratitude. I actually wrote cards to them and sent them to myself, and wrote Father's Day cards and Mother's Day cards. And because that was in May that I did this, starting on there, which was the 22nd, which was right after Mother's Day. And I thought everybody that I talk to, that I help them send a card, will be to send this vibration of gratitude. And this is something I did this randomly in my mind, but intentionally on May 22nd in 2013. And ever since then, every day since. And some days I have these games with myself, like how many ways can I honor my parents today? And I actually sit down and I say, well, I can look at photos of them. I can say prayer. I can do all kinds of things. But if I send out 20 cards today, it will be a vibration that they will understand. And I do this. I made this the currency for me to connect with them. So the gratitude that I have is something I've felt as a young child for many things, but especially for my parents and for their unique way of thinking and raising us. It was very non-traditional. And I loved everything about them being non-traditional. I am as well. Not everyone in my family understands that, but I totally have their DNA. So when it comes to being different and unique, my parents, I chose them and that was great. So I hope I answered your question, and it is something that I believe is in your DNA.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Kathryn.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. All right. So, Laurie, question for you. Um, I feel like you are such a just like you get this idea and you just go. You're like, let's make it happen. Right? Have you always been that way? Can people learn how to become like just a go-getter? Or is that something that's born in you? How did you get and do you feel like you're that way? Sometimes people think I'm a certain way and I'm like, am I really? You know? So do you feel like that just like fierce go-getter, make it happen?
I am. It's probably learned. I don't know if I was born that way, but I grew up that way. So my mom, one of her favorite things was, gosh, I'm gonna sit here and go to say it, and then I'm gonna forget what it says. Um, if you are awake, you are to be productive and profitable.
Mm.
So she was like, I'm not raising lazy kids, we were up, our bed was made the minute we were up, take shower, you get dressed, you're ready for the day. You don't lay around in pajamas, and you get busy. You don't lay around watching TV. We watched like 30 minutes of TV a week, and we were, growing up. In school, I was in jazz, tap, ballet, cheerleader in high school, and then worked 2 jobs, and not because I had to, but because my dad wouldn't buy me as many shoes as I wanted. And my parents were like, as long as you're getting straight A's, you can work as much as you want, because then you're not getting in trouble with all the other teenagers. And I was like, I'll work, I can work and I can make extra money to buy extra clothes and extra shoes. So I did it. So, but yeah, I think fast forward that into, starting my business when I was pregnant with our second child. And then I was keeping my sister's child that was born 2 months before that. So those 2 kids were like twins. But then I knew I still needed to have some sort of income to help our family grow. So my husband didn't have to work a couple jobs. And through that, in building up that business, I had started a web and graphics and branding and marketing company back in '93. And through that, building that up to a 6-figure income, being able to stay at home with my children, then that also helped going into later when he was tragically killed in a car wreck back in 2013. And I still had, one child was out of the house. The second one had just got out of the house, but he was 18. And then the next 2 were 16 and 12. And so, I was thankful that I had an income to be able to provide for the family. A few years before his wreck, he had also had back surgery that went bad and was actually off work for about 5 years. So I became the breadwinner of the family. And so, but through all that, that was it. And juggling kids and juggling the family, and you know how that is, it's like, if you want something to get done, you're gonna let's get it done, let's go. And so yeah, I've just always kind of been like that, because it's just like, that's it. If you want to get something done, it's you, and might as well go ahead and get it done, because otherwise you're going to have an excuse.
Yeah. It's funny, like the lack of fear. I think like fear is what holds so many people back. And it's like, sometimes the worst things in our lives are what press us against the wall and make us go, I don't have time for fear. Right? Like,
Right.
fear is not an option right now. I'm just going to make it happen. And, you know, that's how I was. I mean, when I lost my job, it was like, got a choice, go work for the man again or make this happen. And so I made it happen. Yeah. I love that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly how I was when I decided to quit my job to become a mom. You know, I was like, I've got to make it happen because otherwise I'm going to have to go back to work. I didn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, thank you for both sharing that, because there are women in our audience and men in our audience that have wives that they have to think about, right, going back to work. And like you said, these are tough times for a lot of people, for everyone. There's something that we're all going through, and to be able to hold space for like making the decision, right, leaving a paycheck and going to something entrepreneurial. Not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur. Not
Right.
because they don't want the freedom. Everybody wants the freedom, but you know what they say, idle hands and idle minds. It takes an awful lot of discipline to getting everybody in order, so to speak, to have 7 people or 5 people or 4 people all running a life in the same house. And some people go to work because they get to step away from that. So they actually get to walk away from real life and go to an office that is another sort of contained life, to not have to go home and worry about how does everything work. And when you step into what you both did, and I'm not excluding myself from that at all, but the way you spoke about your stories, because I also am you're employable, I'm unemployable. There's just no way I can work well in a group under like with the group, but just no way I can work in any type of office work. But you held space for that, and you thrived on it, and your children and your family sees that. And the guests and the audience that we have tonight, if they have any struggle, if they're going through something they think is catastrophic along with the rest of the world, like you said, Wendy, that's where the growth happens. If everyone were coasting and everyone were having like an amazing time, would that be growth? It would be a great experience, but the real growth is in the struggles. So for anybody who's watching right now live or going to be watching the replay, if they want to know what a struggle is, maybe they can get in touch with you, Wendy, and you can elaborate a little bit more aside from what you said, or they can get in touch with Laurie or myself, because it is those struggles, and it is those struggles that we relate to and remember how we came out of it. The moment of being on stage and winning an award, in a way, that's a struggle, because it was something brand new and my knees were shaking. So as wonderful as it is, sometimes these new experiences are struggles. Winning money, earning money, having all your dreams come true. Sometimes people sabotage that. But you have really given us examples of how we can persevere. And thank you so much for doing that. It's amazing. Is there any type of message or a final message that you would like to give to us or to anyone before we wrap up our show tonight? And I would love to continue to speak with you, but I do know that you are sitting in a car and you probably have to get home.
No, everything.
We'll go with reality.
No, one thing I want to say, this has nothing to do with anything we've talked about, except that I know that I grew up in a mindset that I grew up in a household of faith and strong like Christian beliefs. And I sometimes confused, and Laurie, you might have heard me say this at our networking event, but I confused humility with insecurity. And I want to encourage anyone listening that has a dream or a passion in their heart, that they think, I don't want to make it about me. I need to be humble. Just to encourage you that the gifts, the dreams that you have inside of you are there for a purpose. And a question that my coach asked me that I think is one of the most powerful questions I've ever heard is, who loses if you don't win? And that was a question that changed my life, because I let myself fail over and over because I didn't want to be prideful and self-promoting. And when she said that to me, I realized that by me not showing up in the gifts and talents that I have, I'm robbing other people of growth. And so I know that everyone watching, no matter where you're at in your life, you have a certain level of genius that somebody needs, and that you were gifted with that on purpose to share with the world, not to keep to yourself.
So well said, Wendy. So well said. Thank you so much for being our guest and for sharing your gifts with us and your genius with us, and for telling us a little bit more about who you are. And maybe you can just hang out a few minutes while we wrap up the show, and then we'll chat a little bit. So Laurie, somebody's watching tonight and they say, I want to be Wendy sitting in the car. I want to be Wendy having an escape plan, being on a show. I want to be Wendy, and I want to sit with the Gratitude Girls and talk about their story. Can you share how someone can become a guest on our show, please?
Yep, absolutely. And one thing I thought of, Wendy, when you were just talking was, don't hide your talents in the sand, right? In the dirt, right? So the talents that God gives you, you need to share them. So that's what came across my mind when you were saying that. So yes, everyone, if you want to be just like Wendy and join us on our show, go to facebook.com/gratitude girls and click message right there. That sends a message to both Kathryn and I, and send us your gratitude story. Tell us why you want to be on our show, and leave us your contact information. We will get back with you with our calendar and see when we can get you on our show. We look forward to doing that. And you can also see some of our past shows at gratitudegirls.com. We have lots and lots of shows there, one show a month for the last 8 years. So there's lots of neat shows, lots of neat stories, lots of neat training, a lot of things to fill your heart with gratitude if you want to follow that as well. And just a reminder, we are here the fourth Tuesday night of every single month, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, 7:30 Mountain, and 6:30 Pacific.
Laurie, thank you so much. Yes, we're booking 2021. Wow, look at that. We're already into 2021. This has been such a fun show. And Wendy, you bring so much light to where you are. First of all, you're wearing red. Laurie, you're wearing pink. I'm wearing gray. Goes to show you the memo went right over my head. Thank you so much. This has been such a fun night, and I'd love to hear more about what you do and how you do it and how you accomplish it. And Laurie, thank you so much for bringing all the color into our show and all of your gifts and your talents. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you, and to our guests and to our audience.
Thank you. Thank you,
so
everyone.
much.
Good night.
Good night.